It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cataruza. On the calendar, the unit sound is September, and the box is unit 16, and the calendar larger matrix unit is millennial to decade, or century 0, decade 2, and year 1. So that's 2021. 2000, year 2021 is what they call it. So 2021 for Italian. Let me think about this. So I took, apparently Linda tells me it's something called Yom Kippur. I don't know how to spell it. I think it's, I don't know if it's Y-U-M, Y-O-M. I don't know if it's K-I-P-P-U-R, K-I-P-P-E-R. Again, I don't know Jews. I see them on TV. I know they exist. I just don't know where and who qualifies. And they don't really do any teaching, even though I saw on the Housewives of New York that they have something called a Black Sabbath, to something like Whoopi Goldberg's color or medium brown color of Sonny Hostin while I'm being held hostage, and they know more Jew than I do. Apparently the Jews like them better than their own kind. It's amazing. That's this version of New York in this United States of America that flies this flag. This is non-regulation size flag, but it's an example as a prop, P-R-O-P, and a symbol of where they're holding me hostage. Another symbol is Lundqvist, number 30, for Hockey Mania over in some area of Canada. Since this team, this Ranger, R-A-N-G-E-R, same word as General Special Forces Ranger Miley, that's my version, but that plays hockey. A sport called hockey, S-P-O-R-T. Anyhow, I went to the park for Nucci. Oh, Linda tells me when I came home, she says, oh no, the Jews, they don't go out today, they fast all day, which means that they don't eat, and they don't do any activity. I'm like, oh, really? Is that what it's about? I was like, anything more? She's like, no. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that much. I said, they didn't mention it on the morning talk show, whatever. So, whatever. So I took Nucci over to the park. And he ran around with Costa, C-O-S-T-A. And I spoke with Sophia, which was nice because the other moms weren't around. And then another mom came up, and she had a son by the name of Sebastian. She had binoculars, which she says, I feel so awkward with these, like, around my neck. And I'm like, well, I mean, you could be bird watching or the opera, like, whatever, like Opry. So I tried to make a joke for her as to why she might be wearing them, exploring new options and all. So I was sitting next to Sophia, and I overheard her. I didn't want to get in the mom version of what's wrong with her son. She said he stutters. I witnessed it. I heard him myself. And then I heard Sophia try, because Sophia is in charge. She studied or specialized in special education. I spoke with her before Sebastian came into the conversation earlier about what, in her professional opinion, qualifies as, or what has she been taught, this autism. What does it mean to a professional? Like, what do they look for? I was like, and so she's like, well, I mean, it's different, you know, for everybody. And I'm like, well, that umbrella word doesn't sound like it comes with anything to really, I mean, it seems like a problem. I was like, all right, so now, and then she gave me a specific example about somebody being socially awkward, and she's the professional word robotic, that they don't catch your eyes, which that doesn't make sense. A robot always looks you dead center at where its focus and target's supposed to be. That's a real robot. So that made no sense. But I listened to the human speak. It's nonsense. And algorithmically, I was just rationally recording the irrational rationale the viral teachings of this land have been brainwashing the occupants with. Under some dark-skinned king that, like GAYLE King, we'll just say, we'll target her for now since she puts herself on the channels that don't carry or deliver any authoritative news, just entertainment news, and hold me hostage here with no access to money, education, or anything important. So, what do you want?
I'm just gonna do something.
Alright, so...
Hi, people.
So I asked, that's what I took with me, by the way. So I asked her about autism, and then I also asked, I said, so tell me about, because she was like, well, you know, Giovanni. And I'm like, what about Giovanni? And so she's like, well, you know, he's older, because he's like 11. I mean, he looks older than that, but 11. And the kids are only, like, my son's 9. Costa's older than my son. And I'm like, right. And she's like, well, usually that's a sign of autism. And I was like, is that how you qualify it? I was like, interesting. I was like, because she's like, and I said, well, here's the thing. Here's what I qualify it as. It looks to me like he is on special, like, mission to sit with the kids that are younger in a non-threatening manner in order to exert some kind of passive aggressiveness. What are you doing? I was like, you're going somewhere? I don't know. What? Anyway, so in some passive aggressive manner, I was like, where he's just trying to direct the children because they're just more innocent, you know, they're just trying to have a good time and innocently enough and whatever, he's trying to direct it. And then she's mentioned that kids his own age are a little bit more rough with him in particular. He doesn't get his way, or he doesn't get to be the boss or whatever. And I said, that's interesting. I was like, that's an interesting observation. I said, me, myself, I was like, I feel the guys behind us. I said, I know they're playing basketball. I don't take inventory or profile who's on the particular basketball court. It's non-essential for my, like, obtusely, I know they're there, but my acute focus is on my son and what's affecting my son for rationale and my own purpose. So, so that happened. And then we get fast forward to Sebastian, and they, you know, like the one mom has one excuse for the mom at the park, which makes no sense. It, like, maybe he's got too many thoughts running through his head, and I'm like sitting there like, oh God. And it's like the other side of it that, you know, like this is supposed to be normal, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, you know, but she said, what caught me and engaged me in conversation, she said her son has a stutter, S-T-U-D-D-E-R or S-T-U-T-T-E-R, I don't know the urban lingo, and so, but it's intermittent. It doesn't always, it's like a short in the electricity. It doesn't always. And then she said that there's a generational gap. Like she had somewhere in his heraldry, he had someone who had a stutter. But then, and so I said to her, I said, well, that's really interesting that it started and stopped again. I was like, because I'm having problems. I have muscle degenerative in my family line, which has been recorded. I was like, but it's a biological attack. I said, the machine, the weather pattern is broken for sure. I was like, it changes the pressure. Some people get clots. Some people, I was like, but you have a very pronounced situation and it's inconsistent. And she had taken him to a speech pathologist, she said, who said that she had never heard, usually it's a consistent stutter. And he developed a stutter very late, Sebastian, and then it's intermittent. So I said, now that's interesting because it sounds to me like it's, I mean, you know that the machine is broken. The weather is broken. It interferes with the body machine. I was like, and then the body machine either functions or malfunctions. And she was just like, well, I've never, and I'm like, no, like I get it, but you got to remember if the body machine is like an antenna and it's walking around, I was like, and we have high frequency radio waves all around us. You've got cell towers now that they talk about, satellites. You've got FM, AM radio. I was like, it's what's called a gamma field of science physics. It's in something called an omicron measurement. It's not something that a biological doctor takes in, or a speech pathologist takes into account when the body machine starts malfunctioning. They just don't. So, I mean, it sounds to me like it's a targeted attack for you and your family lineage because it happened to a brother or an uncle, and then this kid's now being affected with it. Well, that has a lot to do with who's controlling the weather and the weather pattern at this point. I also saw, when I came home, there was an NYPD broadcast of, let's just use NYPD as that broad spectrum law enforcement. Just like the special education department uses autism for a broad spectrum of disorders or syndrome. Syndrome is spelled S-Y-N and then Rome, R-O-M-E. Hello, human. So NYPD has this large law enforcement arm that encompasses many, many units and many, many pieces. And I don't know how they're organized. But there was some shooting on the Upper East Side, and out comes a Gayle King Brown representative that says plastic surgery. PLASTICSURGEY. Now, here's my question, because he looked very well fed and taken care of in his overindulgence of himself through his people. Well, I'm being held hostage and everything's been removed from my effect and my people, my person being able to get to my people elsewhere, from wherever my grandmother and grandfather came between Ireland and northern Italy. That's where my two international grandparents came from. In national news, it was Iowa as a farmer, and it was West Virginia as I don't know what, but they have some beautiful cousinry and heraldry there, so I heard. So now, so that happened. So now, the guy who had plastic surgeon that looks like Gayle King has this really long name that doesn't fit in our diction, but it's a long name. So I know that people count these things. He looks like he took too much of the soy stipend. If he's from Hassan and Akar over in It's something about a kiss. It's Kisan over out in the other children that are much, well, better cared for, over by Bengal tigers. Wherever they house the Bengal tigers, right. Can somebody let my Siberian tiger rep know, since they only come in one ferocious, whether it's an orange or a white, it's still attached to a white kid in Siberia. So I've got that needs to take care of some Bengal. We got Star Spangled Banner issues on the field, is all I'm saying. And it usually goes with the bangle bracelet kids that love gold and worship gold because it makes their complexion look so nice. Right, got that. Okay. So now that kid stole too much soybeans, and now he labeled himself plastic surgeon. He likes to cut into the damaged people in America, in North America, and he likes to come up with things to pull their faces up and blow their lips up and charge an exorbitant amount of money to do absolutely nothing because he shouldn't be touching the children of Earth. Not with this much machine broken, and not with so many soy products being grown in places that shouldn't have farming, since nothing seems to be regulated to a safe standard, as per my New York appearance in some time frame of 19th century, decade 7 plus 8 year. So that happened. I also showed the woman with the binoculars. She had a odd display. So I had my green and black umbrella, but I also took out my button collection and pin collection, and I showed her St. John's Day 1988. So this way there would be some form of validity in the diagnosis that I gave. And so she said to me, she's like, I said, here's the thing. The physician that your child needs does not exist here in North America, like in our ability with all this health system that they built. And then she said something, it really ticked me off because it just sounds so human, and I'm just so done with listening to any of them, which is why I don't really talk to them. I mean, socially awkward? No, I'm not. I just don't want to listen to all of you moan and whine and be wrong and then never want to help out with what's actually needed. So I finally got up. I was like, that's okay. You're just stuck in, like, the machine. The machine's broken. I'm just letting you know it's broken. It affects the body, machine, and there's really no qualified doctors anywhere in New York. She's like, no, I know that. That's what I was saying. She's like, so you have to take it upon yourself. I go, really? I was like, and how are you going to get him to stop? She's like, well, it takes practice. I mean, people have done it. I was like, right. Okay. That's what you're working off of. So that happened. So here we are in, I don't know what else to do. And then I get home, and there's some Gayle King medium brown representative who is from CPS interviewing my son, asking Linda what day, time, and the address of where they scheduled a dentist appointment for Anthony Tiafrio 2012, which in New York City, no less, that I did not approve Grandma making the appointment. And CPS is ballsy enough. I've also gone to NYPD, 111th Precinct, and told them that this Gayle King representative is not welcome in the house or to speak to my son. But they keep sending her anyway. And I'm like, love you. I'm like, she's so sugar sweet. I was like, don't get me wrong, but I don't need her sugar sweet, and I don't need syrup, and I don't need anything else getting into my personal health and welfare business. I need them to send the right, correct people equipped with what I actually need in order to get to where I need to go. Not dancing and skirting around the issue. Trying to build something that doesn't exist. So it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cataruso. I don't know where else to go from here. I mean, it is so painful. The articulation between my bones and joints hurts so bad. Oh, and I explained to if Anna Navarro from this view, if she had like a relative, that girl came into the park today, don't ask me her name, I don't take names at the door, and I showed her the pins, so there's visual, there's Coptic recon that she scanned in the pins, and she was also sitting next to Sophia, so she can't deny that she was there and took part in and witness of. So now let's think about this. So I showed her, and I also mentioned to her, I said, you know, Anna Navarro was on this morning, she was talking about erectile dysfunction. I was like, the problem is that they've got it geared towards this pill for, like, men. I was like, in masculinity. I was like, that's not, I mean, in climate change, you can't, my grandfather used to say, there's no erectness in the bipedal, the body machine as you walk around. You should be able to hold yourself upright. Shouldn't be so slunched over. And I said, and then her son started singing something he saw on something called TikTok, which my son's never even heard of. And
I've heard of it, but I think he was singing something that
inappropriate.
was inappropriate for his age, and he shouldn't have been singing it.
Exactly. So on TikTok, apparently there's something called a Space Jam, SPACEJAM, and it sings something referring to the scrotum and some other really inappropriate, but it's actually like the urban word ball, BALL. So it was kind of like, and then I brought up, I'm like, so now is that going to be like a trend? Or like, I didn't even have the words at first. I'm like, because trend, TREND, is a new age word for generationally for campaign, CAMPAIGN, which is what the old school used to use. So I'm not sure, like, what's going on with the disgusting biological terrorist unit. I'm working by myself in the middle of New York City, but I'm just saying I'm observing a lot, and I've got nobody my level to report to. And I do human interactions, but it's not working in the quickness, let's say, that I need. And it never gets resolved. My life just seems to be getting worse. So, so that happened. So for campaigns, trends, urban diction, and then the actual professional diction for Physician's Reference Guide in an English flat tone at the moment. I'm trying to think. So I showed the woman, I explained erectile dysfunction from a physician's point of view, that my body machine is having trouble standing erect, but I know it's pressure systems in the environment or the acclimate tied in with, I mean, they call it a weather pattern. I don't have any, I'm limited on words of how to explain the invisible, that visibly I can see and feel my body, like not being able, it's like laboratories, it's trabajo to like pull back and up, but it's not something that's sustainable either, because then it shifts the pressure and the weight, and I'm already in what used to be a perfect raisin is now, what used to be a perfect grape is now collapsing in on itself like a raisin. So my body can't stand upright and is not performing correct. But that's usually what happens in gamma and omicrons when you turn the microwave on and you penetrate meat, any meat, with those microwaves. It dehydrates from perfect plasmatic osmotic pressure and symmetry, all of a sudden it starts to change the chemistry and all of the physics, and then it collapses in on itself, and it starts to cook, and it starts to malfunction, and then it becomes really difficult, almost like that thing this morning with the breast milk. Does it still have crystals in it, is what the CDC rep asked. I don't even have phone numbers to CDC reps. I mean, and if I did, I wouldn't know what to ask them. Like, I mean, you just talk to, like, the person who picks up the phone. Are they really qualified for what I need? Can't they send somebody? That's what my grandfather used to say. Can't you send somebody? Like a face-to-face rep, send somebody. And here's what I don't want Gayle King color or Whoopi Goldberg color. I am a white woman. I want a white rep. End of fucking story, assholes.